In episode 13 of Rise of the Field Fillers, I told the story of Competitive Edge Motorsports. This was a single-car team that briefly ran the number 51 Chevrolet in the Cup Series from 2004 through the midway point of 2006. In that video, I mentioned the team's founding members, including NFL player Auer IV, Barry Heffela, and driver Mike Garvey. But after I finished that video, I was able to get in touch with another member of the team, who I only briefly mentioned, LeRoy Porter. I thought about republishing episode 13 with his story, but I felt it stood well enough on its own to warrant its own episode. So with that, let's roll the intro. As if by divine retribution, they returned from the brink of extinction in even greater numbers. They aroused anger in some, admiration in others, but each knew 2004 was their chance to rise. They were the Field Fillers! LeRoy Porter has lived in Altamont Springs, Florida since he was 5, when his family moved east from Arizona. In his life, he developed a passion for mechanical engineering. In 1968, he found work as a technician for National Cash Registers, or NCR, which at the time was the biggest cash register company in the world.
Well, I seen the change from mechanical cash registers to electronic cash registers. Everything was mechanical when I went to work for them, then it changed in the early 80s. Everything started getting to be electronic.
Oh.
Quite a deal. Had a fun time.
Okay.
Liked working in NCR. It was fun. Yep. You had to be a pretty good mechanic to go to work for them. When I went to work for them, they gave you a little aptitude test if you could tell which spring was pulling which arm, and they did this and that. That's how I got on. Not that I was a genius or a college graduate or nothing, but when I went to work for them, you didn't have to have a college education to go to work for them. You just had to be a little mechanically inclined.
Okay.
That's what they liked.
Porter was also a racer. He'd been going to track since he was in high school, then got a job working on a friend's super late model. That friend then hired him to drive. So from the late 70s to the late 80s, between his shifts at NCR, he raced on short tracks across Florida. After briefly stepping out of the sport, he was hired by a new team in 1988, but then he experienced a terrible crash. On June 16, 1990, Porter was racing at Bradenton DeSoto Speedway when he was caught up in a multi-car pileup. What followed was heavily dramatized on the show Real TV.
Two drivers managed to back away from the scene, and a third can be seen here running for his life. But the fourth driver, LeRoy Porter, is trapped, gunning his engine, trying to get out alive. It's no use. His transmission is locked up. LeRoy needs help now. But remarkably, 30 seconds into this disaster, LeRoy somehow rolls out of the fiery hell. Track officials can't believe their eyes. LeRoy is motionless, but breathing.
I don't remember anything when I was laid on the racetrack. Evidently that all got blacked out somehow or another.
LeRoy Porter talks to Real TV about the race that changed his life forever.
I just figured it was another Saturday night crash, and I knew I was involved in it.
What LeRoy couldn't see was the fuel that was leaking down the left side of his car, making the crash site a ticking time bomb.
When the fire came, all I thought about was trying to get out.
Black smoke billowed throughout the interior of the car, making it difficult to find a safe exit.
Finally got the seatbelts off and then went out the right side of the car. I didn't really realize how bad I was hurt at that time.
This race was LeRoy's last. It would take years of therapy to heal the burns he suffered over 50% of his body.
The hardest part about overcoming the injuries is not being able to race anymore and not being able to work at my job.
The accident robbed him of his ability to work as a computer programmer, but it didn't take away his positive outlook for the future.
But I just put that in the past and just continue on now.
Porter escaped the fire with his life and faced a lengthy recovery from his burns. NCR put him on disability, then let him go, and he never raced again. Then, around 1998, Porter was invited to join Race Car Engineering, the company formed by Joe Auer III and his sons Joe Auer IV, or Joe 4, and Russell Auer. Porter first met the Auers during his racing career, when he competed against cars that Auer built.
Well, I knew him from back when I was racing. When I used to race, they borrowed some parts from me one night at the racetrack. They were sponsoring a Thunder car out at New Smyrna. We were running a late model. He needed a rocker arm or something and broke on their car, and we'd come over and borrowed something from us. And I got to know him, man. I knew him for many years before I went to work for him.
Porter now worked in race cars' parts department, first with Peter, one of Auer's own super late model drivers, and then with Barry Heffela. At the time, Heffela worked in the fab shop, where they continued to build race cars while also selling performance parts. I asked Porter about his first impressions of Joe Auer III.
Oh, he was a great guy. He treated me good. I know that. He let me go to work for him, and he was he just loved racing. He liked to race. He liked the racing, and he had a couple of little cars he had souped up and stuff that he drove on the street. And, he was a football player in his early days.
I also asked if Auer frequently brought up his career in the NFL.
The kids used to talk about it a lot, but Joe never really bragged on the fact that he was a football player or anything. He was just an ordinary guy, liked to have fun. And he was a businessman, though. He had another business beside the race cars. He did the race cars for fun. Mm-hmm. That was all extra. He had a regular business he ran been in business for 48 years now. His son's still running it.
That other business was ICN, or International Computer Negotiations, which Joe 4 still runs today. Auer's NASCAR career began in 2003 when he sold race car engineering to a man named Steve Dorr from Lakeland. Porter continued to work at Race Car, which now exclusively sold performance parts, but also served as an extra set of hands at Auer's new NASCAR team, Competitive Edge Motorsports. Now separated from the parts side of the business, Race Car's fab shop formed the foundation of the race team. But since Auer had sold his business, he now needed a new shop, and so teamed up with ASA driver Mike Garvey. As described in episode 13, it was Garvey who helped Auer buy a Busch Series car from Nemco Motorsports, which they then prepared at Garvey's shop.
We worked at Mike's shop up in Georgia. He had a shop in Georgia. I think get the name of the town, Greenville, Georgia, or something like that. He had a shop up there because he used to run ASA cars and stuff. So we worked up there a lot and used he had a transport and everything that we used to go. Did a lot of the bush racing with that.
When Competitive Edge made the jump to the Cup Series in 2004, their 5-man crew changed locations frequently, leasing space in shops owned by other teams or drivers. One of these shops was in Statesville, North Carolina. Wherever the group landed, they made sure that Porter, Joe Auer III, or Russell Auer was there to serve as supervisor. Each held this role for a week, then traded off with one of the other two.
Well, we were at that place in Statesville. I'd go up for a week, Joe would go up for a week, and Russell would go up for a week. We alternated because the old man wanted one of us there all the time to make sure something wasn't getting used up that we wasn't supposed to. Something wasn't happening that they wasn't aware of. Mm-hmm. So he wanted somebody there all the time when we were up there in Statesville. So that's the way we did it. We went up a week at a time, each one of us.
Okay.
And we stayed at the hotel down in Mooresville and drove to Statesville every day to work at the shop.
In between, Joe Auer III held several meetings under one guiding principle.
He said, I think of this shit that needs to be done. Now you guys have got to do it. I'm the one that thinks of this stuff. I'm the brains of this outfit. I think of this stuff to do, and I tell you guys about it, and you do it. Okay?
There we go.
That's the way it goes, boss.
Hey.
You're a boss, so whatever it takes.
There's nothing wrong with knowing where you are in the system, I guess. I like it. I like it.
That's exactly right. And I loved it too.
But there was one thing Auer was more particular about than anything else.
When we got ready to go to the racetrack, you better get his goddamn parking pass. Joe had to have a parking pass at every track. And if you didn't get his parking pass to him, he was pissed. We got his parking. That was our main job. Me and the kids, our main job was to get Joe's parking pass. So when he flew up there, he had a pass to park in the parking lot when he got there. That was our main project.
Porter didn't remember how much of a role Barry Heffela had with Competitive Edge Motorsports, nor if there was a falling out that led to Heffela's name being removed from the team's website. He did have more information on 04 Motorsports, the number 75 team that Heffela opened late in 2004. Here I need to make a couple corrections from episode 13. Randy Heffela was Barry's son, not his father, and Bobby Rinaldi, who later became the team's listed owner, was an air conditioning contractor from Orlando. Competitive Edge didn't have a full-time pit crew. They rented crews from a school in Mooresville. At least two different crew chiefs stood atop the pit box. One was Walter Giles, who was from Australia. The other was Buddy Sisco. Porter's clearest memory of Sisco is that he always knew the best restaurants near each track.
Went to the steakhouse that year we was there.
Okay.
Did a big fancy steakhouse down there and had some of that damn horseradish sauce that was so damn hot you couldn't eat it on the shrimp. The shrimp cocktail is famous for that steakhouse. Everybody that goes to Indianapolis has to go to the steakhouse there. I don't remember the name of it.
Oh, goodness.
But,
I've never been.
Yeah.
I got to check it out.
Buddy Sisco took us everywhere in the country. He knew where all the good restaurants are at.
Oh, no, that's helpful.
Buddy Sisco knew everything about eating. And he told us, when we went in there to eat, he says, now, Lerroy, when you go in these places to eat, you order the highest priced thing on the damn menu. Don't order something cheap. Order the highest priced thing you can find on the menu, because that's going to be the best food. I thought, tell him, buddy.
Oh,
You're the man.
Okay.
Buddy Sisco. I like Buddy Sisco. He was a heck of a good guy. Yeah, we had fun with Buddy. We went to Pocono with Buddy a couple of times, or once or twice, I think. And that's when he took us out to the restaurant and told me that one night when we was eating. Everybody got their money to eat on when you went to the track. We had to go to the bank and get money for everybody to have for per diem for their food and everything. Yeah, it was quite an operation going on there. We were spending money like we had some. We were spending money like we had money, I know that.
Goodness.
But who knows? It was fun. We had a big time for sure.
Porter wasn't sure if Competitive Edge's first Cup car came from Base Motorsports, Sisco's previous employer, but he did recall how the team joined forces with Kevin Lepage and put their car in Lepage's shop in Huntersville.
We went up and had supper with Lepage, and Lepage says, yeah, I've seen a bunch of these guys come into this racing business. They'll spend their $1 million and then they'll go home, and then it'll be the end of them. That's what he told Joe Auer that time when we were eating supper.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah. Kevin was blunt and to the point. Says he's seen a bunch of them come and go, so you might race a while and you may not, so who knows. Then he drove the car at Charlotte, the first race they ever had.
Mm-hmm.
The car and I forget who the crew chief was then.
Buddy Sisco, I believe.
Buddy Sisco, yeah. I think Buddy Sisco was the crew chief out here. They took the car up there, they had it all set up. Never been on the track, and Lepage went out there and qualified qualified in the 20s or something.
He did, yeah, he qualified very well.
Qualified real good. First time on the track.
Yeah.
Never even sat in a car before. He went out there and running around there and did a heck of a job.
At the time, Lepage had to start in park due to a lack of sponsorship. The number 51 only carried logos for negotiationseminar.com, part of Auer's business, ICN.
Yeah, that was Joe's company.
Okay.
That's Joe's company, Negotiation Seminars. That's one of his deals that he has with ICN.
Okay.
That was one of the deals with ICN, that they just put that name on there because they didn't have nothing else to put on it.
Sure.
You know, getting in the race and starting in parking was paying pretty good money back then. They paid pretty good to even get in the race.
Mm-hmm.
I think's what the deal was, and so they didn't think they had enough money, and they didn't have a real team to be able to go in there and race and race with them guys that were racing then. Shoot, it took a lot of money to do that, and I don't think they were willing to spend that kind of money to do it. That's the reason they did the start and park thing for a while.
While speaking with Porter, I also got in touch with Joe Auer IV, who gave me some more information about the team's sponsorship from Marathon Oil. In episode 13, I talked about Tom Thomas, a Marathon employee who took it upon himself to do the team's public relations, but I incorrectly said Thomas was also responsible for landing that sponsorship. He wasn't. That was Craig Wygand, another Marathon employee and a friend of Joe IV. Marathon was particularly excited about their driver Stuart Kirby, and Porter remembered him fondly.
Yeah, he was a good little kid. He was about 90 pounds dripping wet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he looked pretty skinny.
He's a little old bitty kid. We had to put weight in the car to make up for him because he didn't weigh enough to be in. I think they had to go weigh him after they did something, and they had to put more weight in it for him because he's a little midget. Yeah, he was a good kid though. He was a hell of a nice kid, but I don't know exactly what the hell went on with that deal. He was there for a while, and then something out, they had a falling out with him or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I think that he had a good streak of qualifying runs. Then it looked like.
Yeah, he was a good qualifier. I'll tell you that. He was a dang good qualifier. He could get the thing down and go. He didn't mind mashing the gas. He put the gas down.
Oh man,
that's what it took to go.
Were you there at Indianapolis in 2005 when his brakes locked during his qualifying lap?
Yes, I was.
Oh man,
matter of fact.
That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, they had trouble with the car. They had trouble with the brakes qualifying, didn't make the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that Indianapolis race. We only went there once. We went to Indianapolis one time and didn't get in the race.
As Competitive Edge kept having to delay their first full-time season, they never competed on the road courses, nor at the super speedways. Porter explained why.
They didn't have no speedway cars.
Oh.
It was a different car back then.
Just as simple as that.
They used a different car. I don't think it's that they didn't want to run it, but they didn't have enough cars. They used a different car for road racing. They used different for speedways, and then everything else was about the same car for the intermediate tracks and the short tracks. But then that's all they'd ever run on too, is smaller tracks like Martinsville and Bristol and places like that. So them bigger tracks took a different car altogether. So that's the reason they didn't do that, I don't think.
Okay.
Because they didn't have a speedway car. It cost a fortune to do that.
By 2006, Competitive Edge moved into their final shop in Concord, in a building across from a shop that once belonged to Ken Schrader. When they shut down that summer, it was there that their assets were auctioned off. The team never built a car of tomorrow, so some of this equipment was already out of date.
I remember we had all the stuff in there, and then we sold everything out of that place, and then we went to a different place. I don't know, we got stuff again, and in the end, when everything was done, we had to sell everything off again. And you didn't sell it, you gave the shit away. You can't sell race car stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Sell it for a nickel on the dollar. That's about what you can sell it for.
After Competitive Edge Motorsports closed its doors, Porter continued to work at race car engineering until just last year when he retired. He lives in Florida, and this past July, turned 80 years old. Thank you to LeRoy Porter and to Joe Auer IV for speaking with me and for sharing their memories of this fascinating single-car team. Now, next up on Rise of the Field Fillers, it's episode 14, The Wild and Sometimes Unbelievable Adventures of Ray Sachs.
In America, there exists a sport that is driven by the fans. They are why everyone works so hard, on the teams and at the tracks, in front of the grandstands and behind the scenes, to give the fans the greatest race possible. NASCAR fans deserve the best, starting from the high banks of Daytona, all the way to the shores of California, and at every race in between. NASCAR fans, you're the reason for our success. Thanks.